This is the Rugby Odds, where an unlikely pundit panel of a wordsmith, a WWE legend, a rugby star, and a supermodel scour the globe, seeking best bets and bad behavior. Are you not entertained? Yeah, hell yeah. Yes, thank you, much appreciated. And boy, could I use it. But look, in the sponsor opportunity green room, you're going to see a slight development. John Bradshaw Layfield, the WWE Hall of Famer / rugby advocate, has his proxy, Steve the Lizard Lewis, Costa Rica Steve, stepping in today. And you'll also see that he's with King Gift Egbelu, the inventor of words, as they both prep diligently for what's ahead. And what's ahead is on the Your Company name. Here's Slate. It's chock full of goodies. Plus, we have George Hook, the Irish rugby legend, calling in from Dublin. So let's get to it. Gentlemen, 45 and 39. A bit of a sluggish record, to say the least. And yours truly would be getting the wooden spoon. But because John is, quote, stuck on the golf course, end quote, he gets it for sending his proxy / caddy. But one door closes and through another comes a legendary rugby GM and coach / player consultant, Steve the Lizard Lewis. Steve Lewis, welcome to the Rugby Odds. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Let's go. The Scottish Nigerian, baby. The Scottish Nigerian.
That's right. Steve the Nigerian. He's also Costa Rica, Steve. Is that not accurate, Stephen?
That is correct this week. This week I am in Costa Rica.
Wonderful. And you look different.
You know, this whole thing with stepping in for JB, I was getting to be a regular thing. So at some stage, if he's making a fortune in this stuff, there needs to be some remuneration. That's all I'm saying.
Of course. And in the meantime, you could submit your expenses to Helen Waite, our accounts manager. You can go to Helen Waite. Thank you. I'm here all week. All right, but let's get on with the show. Steve, not only are you going to be John's proxy offering his picks, but we're going to allow you to offer your own opinion too. And with that, let's start with our observations from last week in rugby. Steve, what was yours?
Yeah, I think obviously we had the European Cup final, Leinster Toulouse, a titanic clash between these two European powerhouses. Toulouse coming out in the end. But for me, the interesting thing of the many interesting things was that the two star players, Dupont, man of the match, World Rugby Player of the Year, probably the best player on the planet, and Hugo Keenan, the Leinster fullback, will both be plying their trade for their respective countries in the World Sevens series in Madrid this weekend. So I think it's fascinating that A, they've been allowed to, B, they're both interested in doing it. And I think it's a good reflection of how the sevens game is still important.
But Steve, does it interrupt continuity as a coach?
Obviously, both these teams are still at the sharp end of the URC. Well, sorry, Leinster at the sharp end of the URC. They've got a significant game coming up this weekend and then the playoffs. So the Keenan one is important. Dupont still, Toulouse still top 14. So what is interesting is that their clubs have given them the permission, and in addition to their appetite to play in it, I think there's two different things going on there.
And, it's these guys get a shot to go for an Olympic medal. That's a pretty cool thing, too.
That's exactly it. And Dupont in Paris in front of 82,000 adoring French fans. I mean, that's Hollywood, as you would say.
All right. Gift.
I think one game taking it in the U.S. was that Chicago versus New Orleans game. I talked about that last week, and it really did live up to the hype of being 2-3. A big shout out to this New Orleans team for actually jumping back after losing some really stupid games last month in April, and to be able to go 4 straight now. And Chicago, who I did have second overall in my initial polls, has dropped. I still consider them to be one of the top 5, but look, New Orleans is prevailing, and it looks like they're finding that spark they had back in 2018, 2019, the Nate Osborne years, to say the least.
All right, and winning in sports is something that happens in weird ways. Of all things, I went against the Crusaders in Christchurch versus the Blues in Super Rugby, and what happens? The Crusaders beat the Blues in a key match for the Blues because they're at the top of the table fighting to see who they, will be playing or if they'll have home field advantage. But that was one observation. The other observation is the two-point matches between the Miami Sharks and the Free Jacks. Miami knocking off the returning champions in Florida in a slop fest, but who cares if you win ugly or not? A W is a W. And then up into Quilla, Washington. Old Glory came oh so close to knocking off Seattle. But Seattle, Steve, is riddled with injuries.
Indeed, they are. You saw their starting lineup at the weekend, especially in the back row, right? Hatting's out for the season, Elton and Cara Pryor. So there's three sort of key players there. They actually, interestingly enough, they've been quite a lot. My old New York contingent are showing up with Manati, Pango, Daquan, people like that. But yeah, Seattle are weathering the storm. They're in a good position because they banked the points, so they're in good position in the table. But they are going to struggle to, I think, maintain that quality going forward. That's a serious injury crisis that they're undergoing.
Yeah. And
now Matt, you can continue justifying cleaning up Adrian Belfort's farm since Seattle continues to win a little bit more. So, hey, it's all wins for you there, huh? All wins.
Okay, John. Oh, wait, I mean, Gift. So we do have the business of the wooden spoon to deal with, and I was 14-14 at 500 for the first time in 3 weeks and would normally get the wooden spoon. Gift, you had the best record. You were 16-12. John was 15-13, but he gets the wooden spoon for not being here. There you go. John Bradshaw Layfield, you're welcome, as per Steve Lewis. Your proxy.
On his behalf, though, the record is the record, and isn't it about time perhaps that you should reconsider?
All right. On his behalf, Steve has been muted. His mic has been muted as per John.
Free the lizard, man. Free the lizard.
Steve, we're gonna keep your mic muted while we have George on. So we'll bring you back after George is in as your punishment for being a little bit naughty. All right, we'll be right back with Mr. George Hook after this.
Need a great price on a new vehicle? Sheehy makes it easy. Easy Price shows you our lowest prices on the Mid-Atlantic's largest selection. Find your best price online or at any of our 31 dealerships.
It's easy at Sheehy. Sheehy.com.
If you're in New York City and want to watch some great rugby, have some great food, and some great times, go to the world's best rugby pub, the Pig and Whistle on West 36th Street.
Hey, while we're talking about the Pig and Whistle, don't miss this week's MLR Weekly with Alan Gilpin, the CEO of World Rugby from the Pig and Whistle. And we are back with Mr. George Hook once again. Gift, we got George here. Yes! George Hook, ladies and gentlemen.
Give the proper grace.
Yes!
The proper greeting.
Woo! Yeah! George, what happened in the Champions Cup?
Here are the statistics, right? Leinster had 60% of the ball. Leinster had 60% of the territory. And Leinster only made had to make only half as many tackles as Toulouse. And they lost.
Yeah.
I know statistics can lie, but by and large in rugby, those statistics mean that the team wins. There is a problem, and the problem is captain, right? 4 times in the first half, Leinster had kickable penalties. With one of the best kickers in the game, Ross Byrne, those were 12 points. That was 12 points. They turned them down to go for this modern theory that you kick it in the corner. So they kicked it in the corner and got nothing.
Yeah.
Now, I admit that I was born before Pearl Harbor, so my mental processes may well be questionable about. But if any team that I was involved with did not take the points on offer, somebody's head would roll. The other issue, which should have been first on my list, Toulouse had the best player in the world, in any position, in Anton Dupont. Like, when you analyze his game, like you don't come up with stats about like how many times he passed the out half or how many times he kicked. You're looking at stats about the number of tackles he made, try-saving tackles, the number of turnovers he wins at rocks. There are very few scrum halves win turnovers at rocks. And the scrum half has a decision to make. Do I go in here? In which case, if I go in and we don't win the ball, I'm out of play.
Yeah.
his ability to say, I gotta go, and then win. So that's it. It's as simple as that. Why Leinster lost.
And I want to go back to last week in your remarks when you said that the key position for Leinster was the number 10 position, and you saw Frawley come in. Is that an example of how they don't have the depth at that position?
I don't think Leinster lost because of Burns. Leinster's back play has noticeably disimproved this season. And
Well, they're missing Ringrose.
Ringrose is hugely underrated. I mean, hugely underrated as an attacking and defensive player. And that's fair comment. But I mean, like, we're dealing with a team who is one of the best teams in Europe. They can't really turn around and say, oh, we've lost one centre, now we're goosed, we can't play rugby anymore. Come on.
Is a person like Antoine Dupont such a unique element, almost like Jonah Lomo was, some 30 years ago, that makes him so all worldly? Or is Antoine Dupont one of those standard kind of players that you can replicate if you change the way that we're training, or there is the possibility of having one player on a team that changes everything? Because this guy changes everybody's game.
My knowledge of DNA studies is fairly limited, but Dupont is a once-off. He's a genius. Right now, it doesn't matter whether the genius is William Shakespeare or, what's his name, the fella who signed the Proclamation of Independence in America.
Jefferson?
The very man. Now, these guys are one-offs, and you can't suddenly turn around and say, we're going to get another one. There won't be another. Dupont's the greatest player in the world.
Yeah.
I have never seen a scrum half as influential as he is.
Right.
Never. And I'm watching this game for 70 years, and I've never seen a scrum half as influential as him. He's a freak of nature, and there's no way that you're going to be able to replicate it. I don't think AI can crack it.
Well, they're in labs right now. They're going at it right now. But yeah, he is just amazing. Leinster, are they going to have some change? This loss mean anything in terms of the IRFU and whether Leo Cullen keeps his job or not?
Cullen is not appointed by the IRFU. Cullen is appointed by Leinster. And Leinster has its own chief executive and its own professional setup and so on. They made a decision because Dan Sheehan is one of the top try scorers in the tournament, and he scored a truck of them off the maul, the hooker, right? And he's at the back of the maul, off one of these short line outs, and bingo, he scores. So they're betting that Sheehan is going to score, and Sheehan didn't score. So that was a policy. For me, Cullen should have when he sent his assistant in with the water, he should have said to him, for crying out loud, kick 3 points. I mean, I couldn't believe it that the try hadn't been scored. Try hadn't been scored in over 18 minutes.
Yeah, you got to take the points. Got to take the points.
Yeah.
But we got that other thing going on here, the URC. There's 1 week left, and you've got a lot of teams that still can get in the final 8, George. How's Leinster going to have that hangover or deal with that hangover from this loss?
When you're a professional, and it doesn't matter whether you're a professional actor or you're a professional doctor or whatever the hell you are, the expectation is that you can come out the following week and deliver a par performance. So you got to accept, I think, that a bunch of professionals at Leinster, and you can look at it 2 ways. You can say they've lost 3 European Championship finals on the span, or you can say how many other teams are capable of getting to 3 European Championship finals on the spin. So, like, they are very good, and I think they'll be fine. I don't think they'll win the URC. I think my beloved Munster will win it, because there is an issue about timing always in sport. And this thing about peaking at the right time has always been part of sport. And I think Munster peaking at the right time. And they're going to be very difficult. And particularly if they get a home draw and they're in Thomond Park, it's going to be pretty scary.
So Ulster doesn't worry you against Munster this weekend?
Not in the slightest.
And I would imagine Connacht is even less worrisome versus Leinster.
No chance, yeah. No chance. There'll be 2 Irish teams in the top 8, Munster and Leinster.
Who do you think actually can beat Munster in this URC? Do you feel like they are almost inevitably set to be the champions?
No, you can't say that. But like I always said, when the French take a competition seriously, they're very hard to beat. So there's no French teams in the URC. The Sharks won the makeup competition to beat Gloucester in the final of some, so I don't even know the name of it.
Challenge Cup.
I don't think the South African teams are going to compete in this. And that's why I think Munster are very likely to win it. And I have to say, if Munster don't win it, Leinster will. And Leinster will win it. Now, it won't lose it because of some kind of hangover. Leinster will lose it because they'll be beaten by a better team. But a South African team will not win the URC. So say it, you're expert.
And this expert, ladies and gentlemen, said that Leinster would lose to Toulouse. And he also pointed out the issues at the number 10 position. He was 2 for 2 last week, if you want to look at it that way. Once again, George, thank you for bringing this up a notch.
Thank you, George.
George Hook, ladies and gentlemen. George Hook, Gift. Come on. Yeah. You need your cleats? You need them tomorrow? If you order today by 3 p.m. New York time or noon LA time, they can have them to you tomorrow. Young, old, male, female, if you're playing on turf, if you're playing on grass, if you're playing in the rain, you're playing in the heat, they've got you covered. RugbyNow.com. Go there now. And we're back with Steve. Steve learned his lesson from being banned into the TRO sin bin for being mouthy. And that was the call by the referee. But Steve, welcome back. And now it's time, gentlemen, to make our picks. And Steve, again, we're allowing you to have your opinion, so you'll give John's picks as his proxy/caddy as he golfs. But you'll also weigh in with your picks. And Gift, you and I will, of course, weigh in with our picks. Let's start with the MLR. Steve, who do you like in the MLR this week?
I like Utah at home against San Diego. The reason being, they're a team that's underperformed this year. And really, this is the last chance saloon for them, the last chance for them to get their act going, to get their, wagon rolling. I think they've got the potential to do it. I think San Diego are a little suspect. They relied on second half comebacks a fair bit. And I think if Utah are ever going to spark their season, it has to be this weekend. And
I'm interested because what is John's pick?
He's going the other way, apparently. They misguided Mr. Layfield. Is apparently going with San Diego for reasons unknown to me.
Wow, you are one pesky proxy, just going against your employee.
He hasn't paid me yet. He hasn't paid me.
All right, okay. All right. Gift.
Look, I got the best game of the week, New Orleans versus Houston. I said it last week, and I say it again this week. This New Orleans team is starting to get their crescendo, but this is going to be the game that determines what they're going to be in the playoffs. All right, this is the toughest team they've probably played this entire season, but I do believe that at home, they will continue to be able to show that they are covering the spread. -5 on this one, keeping it close. There's a tough Houston team, but New Orleans is better at home. Look for New Orleans to cover that spread.
All right. I'm going up to Quincy, Massachusetts, where the returning champions are coming off that loss versus Miami. And I think at home, they're going to feel a little bit better, maybe get a little bit healthier, maybe get Reese McDonald back. And I think they're going to edge out Dallas, cover that 4 points. But Dallas is a tough team to play. The Jackals are always biting. And I think it's going to be an exciting match, but I think New England covers that -4. Let's move on to the URC, Stephen. That's the United Rugby Championship in their final weekend with all kinds of playoff ramifications ahead of us before the quarterfinals. Who do you like?
I'm going to go with the Hollywood Bet Sharks. They're at home against the Bulls. Bulls need to win. That logjam, the top 8 in URC, as you say, last weekend. So in order for my Glasgow Warriors to get a better seeding, the Bulls need to be beaten. The Sharks need to beat them. The Sharks are coming off a European Challenge win, first ever win by a South African team in a European competition. It doesn't sound right, but that's the truth. Not only that, the Hollywood Bet Sharks will be in New York City in a couple of weeks' time, the coaches and the owners, at a play rugby event. So I'm going for them against the Bulls at home.
What about John's pick?
John's pick. Well, again, the misguided, misinformed, misanthropic. Oh, no, that's you. He's going for the Italian Zebras. Now, they're going up against the mighty Glasgow Warriors. The spread's 30.5. Glasgow need to win. The Zebras are already on the beach in Kenya or wherever they are. And so I think his pick of Zebra there covering 30.5 is a nonsense.
Nonsense. Another taking a shot at the guy that brought you in as his proxy and caddy. Gift?
Man, I think the game to watch for me is Stormers versus Lions. This is usually one where it should be an absolute total blowout, where Stormers just run rickshaw all over the Lions, but the Lions are trying to get that top 8. The spread is 6.5 points, but I do think that Stormers still cover and beat the Lions by that 6.5. It's going to be a closer game for most of it, but I don't think the Lions are going to prevail. They're going to be sitting outside watching the playoffs at home.
Steve, I've got one for you. I'm taking Zebre. I'm taking those guys down on the beach in Kenya, and I think the 30.5 points is too many points. I think you got to go to jail before you lose by 30.5 points. I think you got to punch somebody in the face, hit him with a baseball bat.
If you're a Zebra, where would you rather be on Saturday? On a beach in Kenya or in Glasgow in front of 10,000 baying Glaswegians in the rain getting your ass kicked?
Good points. Boom. Great points.
Too many points, and I know I'm hypocritical. Let's take a quick break and come back with more picks after this. From New York City comes America's longest running and most popular rugby show. The biggest names in Major League Rugby, MLR highlights, and big match previews. Rugby Wrap-Up presents MLR Weekly, made in New York City. Hey, U.S. fans, you can tune into every match live on Flow Rugby. How do we know that? Because we're on there all the time. And we're back with the playoffs, or the semifinals in the Premiership over in England. Steve, who do you like out of Northampton, -3.5 versus Saracens? Northampton at home at Franklin's Gardens.
Northampton's here. I'm going with them all the way. They're at home. They're on form. They get too much firepower for a Saracens team that is imploding.
And what about your employer?
One more time, my misguided, misinformed Mr. Layfield, my very good friend. He has an exceptional deference to all things English. So he typically goes with the Saracens, the London, the royal family type team. And so I believe he's going for them. But again, misguided, misinformed.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll have to see how it plays out. Gift?
Yeah, look, I feel like Northampton has still too much sadness in their heart from their loss in the European playoffs. I look for Northampton to probably just completely demolish this Premiership game. I don't think the Saracens are the same ones that they have been before. Last hurrah, not. They're just too sloppy now.
Yeah, I'm looking for atonement, so I'm going with the Saints. Thank you very much. Let's move on to the other match. Bath, or Bath, as Gift likes to say, -6.5 at home versus the Sale Sharks. Steve, you going to go with the Sharks again?
I am not going with the Sharks. I'm going with Bath, or Bath. Finn Russell, Redpath, Bayliss, too many good Scots players there. Bath are going to hump them.
Yeah, look, man, 6.5 points. You got the, I guess, best fly half in the world. It's just too much. It's too much. Bath got this one down.
It's bad.
Sale played Boff got this one all the way down with a heroic effort by Finn Russell, but I do think that 6.5 points is not enough for them. I think they're going to blow out Sale.
So Both is going to beat Sal. Is that what you're saying?
Boff is going to beat Sale.
Oh, so you say one name correctly, but you won't say the other name correctly. Okay.
Boff is going to beat Saul. All right.
Thank you.
Saleh, if you may.
Thank you. Double down.
Isn't that Spanish for dirty? The bath water is going to be too hot.
Well, we got all kinds of stuff here. Layfield, Lewis is good. I'm going to go with Bath as well. And I can't go against Finn Russell in a big game like this. Although Sale has been very good this year, 6.5 points. I think Bath covers it. Just all right. Let's move.
Pick of the week yet? Is it time for pick of the week yet?
No, it's not time for the pick of the week. We still have Super Rugby, which is in its final week of regular season, and there's a lot going on there. Steve, who do you like?
Super Rugby, I'm not really a fan of, but I am a fan of Disney, so I'm going with Moana Pacifica.
Okay. Gift?
I'm looking for G and Drua. I do like what they're going to do. I think they're going to absolutely beat the Rebels, get that placement, but I think the point spread is just too much. Look for the Rebels to be able to cover that.
Steve, before I give my pick, what about your Lord, John Bradshaw Layfield's pick?
Well, I've got news for you. JBL's got this one right. He's going for the Brumbies away to the Western Force, the hapless Western Force. Brumbies, it's a long way to Perth, but they're going to be good enough to beat that spread.
Okay, and I'm going to try to fix what I was wrong about last week. I'm going with the Blues this week at home in a must-win game for them, whereas for the Chiefs, they're locked in 4th place. The Blues are battling for that first place home field advantage thing. I think the Blues beat the Chiefs by at least 7.5 points. And now it's time for our picks of the week. Steve, as a guest with an opinion, who's your pick of the week?
I'm going for the Aberystwyth Under-18 Boys Club B-side in their title decider against Port Talbot. They just get too much firepower. Too much firepower.
In the meantime, what is your proxy ease pick?
John, and he's got this one right as well, I think, is going for DC against Anthem. It's 14 points, I believe, DC at home. And they actually do have too much firepower.
Gift.
Yo, look, we got HSBC 7s coming up this week. The bottom bunch fighting to get in. I want to say the U.S. I really, in my heart, want to say the U.S., but Kenya to be able to get in and return back to HSBC 7 series for the women's side. Look for South Africa to make their entry point and be able to maintain their spots.
Okay. All right. I'm going to go with the Stormers versus the Lions. I like the over in this match. And on that note, we are out of time. I want to thank Mr. Steve Costa Rica Lewis, the proxy for John Bradshaw Layfield. I want to thank John Bradshaw Layfield, the WWE Hall of Famer / rugby advocate, King Gift Egbelu, the inventor of words, and George Hook, the Irish legend. And thank you for tuning in. Please check out our other shows, including MLR Weekly, the College Rugby Wrap-Up. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Sign up for our weekly newsletter. And please join our American Red Cross blood donor team.